Good evening, everyone. Confirm the audio and the video once. So this session is all about a lot of people, they were asking, maybe posting in the group that they require a session on WhatsApp on tones. And that is why I thought of having a session for that. So let's see how much that helps you. So I am live on YouTube as well as Facebook. I can see a lot of people spread on both the platforms. So in case you have, why I went on YouTube, the reason is very simple, because I wanted people, those who are not a part of iQUANTA batch, if they also require it, probably your friends, you can share the stream with them as well. So share it. Sharing is caring, right? So without further ado, further delay, let's start the session. Reading comprehension tones by me. Hello and welcome everyone. Okay. What do you see here? A lot of women having different kind of expressions on their faces, isn't it? So when we say tone, it is basically, it can be in form of verbal expressions, non-verbal expressions, body language, something which is there on your face, isn't it? Okay, Rituraj. So even it happens like when I'm talking to you, you can see a lot of tones, a lot of expressions on my face, which are majorly happy, informative, technical, motivating, in some cases exaggeration as well, isn't it? We keep on doing these things. Voice is lower. Is it for everyone? Is the voice lower? I hope it is. I think it is moderate. The voice is good to go, isn't it? Yes, now I can be critical, analytical. Depends on what kind of question we are dealing with and what kind of things we are discussing. All right. So this PPT that I have made, in this PPT there are a lot of things which I have put, and I have done some kind of creativity here. It took me 3 hours to come up with this because it required a lot of, I would say, technicality to create this PPT, which looks like a book. Here it goes. See, the first page. So I opened my diary. That's my diary, right? Okay. So first of all, let us go to the weightage of questions. I went through the previous 6 papers and I combined all these lots, then came up with this table in which I am discussing that how many questions belong to what kind of question, what type of question. So year 2023, combining all these lots, the main idea questions were 5 in number. Main idea. When you say main idea, it's basically there can be something which talks about, let's say, pollution. Okay. So in pollution, there can be different things. Pollution can be, we can have a passage which discusses what pollution is, what are its effects, how it can be controlled, and then a proper conclusion. That is how the entire passage goes like. That is that in that way we are basically representing things as facts. Okay. In that case, majorly the motive of the author will be neutral, because author doesn't want to create a statement. He or she just wants to present a fact in front of you. All right. We can also have like in terms of pollution, the same topic can have different other kind of patches as well. So we can have pollution in which we'll be discussing different kinds of pollution. All right, air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, It can be sound pollution as well, noise pollution. So basically, the main idea can change even if it is the same topic. So main idea is not just pollution. When I gave you two different examples, in the first, the idea was pollution as a whole. In the second, the idea was informing you about different kinds of pollutions. Is that clear? Understood? Those are main idea questions. Cool? Okay. So as you can see, the main idea questions in 2022 was 6, then 4 in 20. The number of questions were, higher. So 10 questions were there, 10, 6, and 9. This is main idea question. Now, when I say main idea, they won't be directly asking you, that what is the main idea? No. They will be asking you in different ways. They can also ask you, what is author trying to convey through the passage? What is the reason for the author? What is the primary purpose of writing this passage? So we can have different kind of words which will be discussing main idea. By the way, our agenda is not discussing this. I just gave you overview what exactly happened. Rashu, let's see how much time it takes. Direct data questions. So 9, 10, 12, 15, 10, 12, and 8. Direct data. Majorly, this kind of questions come in science and tech passages because there is a lot of direct data over there, isn't it? Like pollution can be an environmental passage. We can talk about, let's say, VLSI. What is VLSI? Who will tell me? Very large scale integration. It's a kind of IC, integrated chip, the manufacturing, very large scale integration, science and tech passage. So we can have a lot of direct data questions based on when the passages are from the genre science and tech. So if you remember, if you have gone through one of my modules, which is called as Engineers VARC, in that I have discussed it in detail. Direct data, they can also ask, for example, there can be a passage which talks about some kind of story, some kind of memoir. You know what is memoir? Some people call it memoir. It's memoir. Memoir, okay? So, memoir, travelogue, so, and these kind of passages can also have direct data questions, right? So where did the author go? Where did the author go? And the options might make it confusing. So that is how, they ask the data questions, inference. I have been saying from quite a long time now that 50% of the questions are inference based. And that is why I tell you that never ever try to skip this part, the inference based questions. So we had 34 in 2023, combining all these lots specifically. Then 34, 33, 25, 20, 18, and 25. Inference is asked in a lot of different ways. What can you infer from this? A very simple question. What does the author imply by this statement? Okay. What can be derived from this statement of author? What can be the premise of saying this statement? So all these kind of questions are basically inferential questions. Do you understand that? Got it? That is, they are inferential questions. So we have a lot of them. Then comes critical reasoning. Critical reasoning are, I just dislike these questions. I dislike them. What about you? The questions which say they have, very weird kind of framing, the words which they used while making the questions. They would say, first of all, it starts with which of the following. ठीक है, इसका मतलब पहले ही हो गया कि शायद सब कुछ सही हो, इनमें से कोई एक, है ना? Which of the following, if true, would most strengthen the given argument. So in these kind of questions, what happens? First of all, you need to identify the argument. That is point number 1. कि argument था क्या? पता ही नहीं चल रहा. Isn't it? That happens. Yes or no? Kumar's Sparsh. Exactly. I'll come there. Yeah. So these kind of questions, first of all, you need to find the argument. Argument मालूम ही नहीं पड़ रहा. आगे उसके बाद, then when you identify the argument, after that, the author will be giving something in the options which is not true according to the passage, and you have to deem them to be true, like assuming them to be true. This assumption would weaken or strengthen the argument of the author. The problem is when they say least likely to strengthen. So you will realize that all four options are strengthening, and then you will start comparing which has the highest degree of, of strengthening, the least degree of strengthening. So these kind of questions actually take a lot of time. They look like language questions, but they're majorly reasoning questions. All right. Do you get that? If true, if false, most likely, least likely, strengthen, weaken, all that stuff. Then, as you can see here, 16, 14, 15, 10, 8, 12, 6 questions. Coming to tones, the agenda of today's session is tones. And as you can see, there were 0 questions asked. Wow. 0 questions asked. Still, students were asking that we should have a session on tones. I don't know what, I could have just messaged them as a reply that it is not asked. Okay, so leave it, ignore it. But still, I am here with the session. What can be the reason? This is what we need to understand, that why are we studying tones? Why are we studying tones? All right. And you know what? Not just this. I went to like 2013, there was not a single question of tone. The thing is, point number 1, it can be asked in some other exam except CAT, but that is of course not that great a reason to conduct this session. The reason is this, and CAT is unpredictable, of course, aaj tak nahi hai to abhi nahi aayega kya, you never know. But there is some kind of indirect benefit. Tones can be used for solving a lot of questions which are from inference or main idea. I'll tell you how. Come to second passage, second page. Quick comprehension. The first reason is quick comprehension, and the second is elimination of options. So I'll take them one by one. All right. Let me take something which is elimination of options. Pushpak, it should be 14 to 15 questions. Okay. Let's discuss this. So, for example, I am writing a passage and I'm discussing about, I'll give you any example, random, whatever comes to my mind. So let's say I went to some mountain. Okay, let's say I went to Ladakh on my bike, which I did once. And I'm writing about the travelogue. So, I took the bike, I arranged all that stuff. This is a passage, okay? And then I took the best possible route. I looked at what can be the best possible route where there'll be snow or ice, what kind of conditions are there. I met people in between. I got to know, a lot of cultural things as well as geographical things. It was so beautiful. I went to Pangong Lake, and I was there. I clicked photographs. I did all that stuff. And when I returned back, it felt like it was a journey of my life. So my whole life rewinded in front of me. Now I'm becoming philosophical as well, right? So in conclusion, I can write, it was a journey of life, of lifetime. It was a kind of coming of age for me, right? So the moment I came back, I realized that I was missing a lot in my life. There was a lot of questions, anxiety, and all of them got answered because I had a lot of time to actually enjoy and rejoice the nature, right? Okay. Yes. So these kind of, the tone of course is, it's narrative. It can be, and in the end it can be philosophical as well. Right. And there can be certain things which I saw over there, probably the local people, the culture. It can have some anecdotes as well, right? All that stuff is possible. So basically you cannot have only one tone in the entire passage. It can keep changing a bit. But if that is the passage and we have the options, so in all of it, how am I? If I make a face for it, this is what my expression is while writing the entire passage. Yes or no? Yes? Is that it? So all in all, even if I was philosophical, I was, kind of listening to the stories, I was getting motivated. and I was enjoying, I was like looking at the mountains. I said, wow, what a mountain there is. Okay, how beautiful the heaven can be. So basically, this is my expression throughout the passage. Yes. And if there are options, like this, one option looks neutral. I won't write the option, I'll just make some smileys. One option looks sad. This is sad, right? One option looks angry. Okay. And in one option looks confused. Then what will you choose? What will you choose? Right, Aishwarya. Author is really tired of the world most of times. Yeah. हाँ, लद्दाख गया हूँ बिल्कुल. So tell me, which one will you choose? Exactly, Vansh, that's right. Abhiram sir, choose to skip the question. Which one would you choose? This is my mood in the passage. All right. And these are the options. Which one should I choose? Which is the closest one? Which one is the closest one to being happy? See, the opposite of happy is this, sad, है ना? And these two are kind of similar. This is totally irrelevant. So from the journey of happy to sad, you pass in between the transition that is neutral. So when I told you about the entire passage in which there was happy moments, there were anecdotal moments, there were examples, motivation and philosophy as well. So overall combined, it has to be something which is nearest to happiness. If we don't have happiness in the option, of course we'll choose the neutral option. Is that clear? हाँ खुशी, क्लास 2 जगह चल रही है. Is that clear? I'm live both on YouTube and Facebook. Cool. Getting it? So, even if they don't ask question on tones, they might be asking something, and we can kind of use it for eliminating the options which are farthest from the mood of the author. All right. That is why tones are important. That is one reason. There can be more reasons. Let's go to the second reason, the quick comprehension. Quick comprehension. So, if you have Kumar's Sparsh, yes, that happens. Like, if there is a complex word which you don't know, then there is no way, to find that word out. Well, so now, the second is the comprehension of the passage, the understanding of the passage. Hi, Sakshit. Yo. Okay. So, what happens in quick comprehension? If you have watched any kind of movie, series, read any story, a novel, a book, so all these stories have three most important things, isn't it? Which are what? Isn't it? That's right. Why? How? These are the three most important questions, and based on and if you want to write a story, you just have to answer these questions in a lot of words, and you will form a story, isn't it? There can be other questions like when, but when is not always important. These three will be the most important questions. Yes or no? Do you agree to me? Yes, tell me in the comments. What, why, how? The answer to these three important questions will create a story, any kind of story which an author is writing. Okay? He has pen in his hand. He's writing a story by answering these three questions. Yes or no? They can be when also, but these three are the most important. So I will take these up one by one, and when author tries to answer these questions, probably you will get an idea of what his or her mood is, what kind of expression he or she is following. So let's go to them one by one. The first thing first, quick comprehension. What is author trying to talk about? Ronak is saying, thank God my girlfriend won't be the author, वरना कोई उसका mood नहीं समझ पाता. Nice. ठीक है. So, what is author not talking about? The two things author wants to talk about: the idea or the supporting idea. Idea also means subject. What kind of subject author wants to talk about? Author wants to talk about something, certain thing or certain things. Okay, so the subject will be a single subject, and connected to these subjects there will be sub-concepts, sub-topics, or whatever you can say, sub-subjects. I don't think there's a word called sub-subjects, but there will be a lot of supporting ideas. I'll give you an example. Okay. All right, I have to toggle between YouTube and Facebook both, but I think all the queries have been answered already. Cool. So let's take an example. For example, I want to talk about religion. All right, religion. That is going to be my idea. Okay, so when I'll be talking about religion, in that case, I might discuss that why religion was formed, who were the people who formed it, when it happened. Why means why was it there's a need of having religion? There's a need of having someone like God. Then who were the people? It was a group of people or some single person. When was it formed? And after that, how did it help us? Is there a negative side of religion, or yes or no? And in the end, a summary which can summarize all of it. Now there are two things in the summary which can happen. Summary can summarize all of it in a neutral way. All right. It can also happen that the author, when talking about this, how religion has helped, he or she might be happy, or neutral, or confused, right? In case of negative, the author can be angry, isn't it? Or the author can be sarcastic. Yes or no? This is a possibility, right? So the supporting ideas to this will be negative and positive impacts of having a religion in place. And in the summary, you will find that author is trying to balance all his moods and come to a mood that is totally neutral. And in neutral, we can have lot of tones which we'll be discussing, in the upcoming slides. Neutral. Overall, it becomes neutral. All right. And neutrality has a lot of other possibilities as well, which will be coming to soon. Is that clear? J, yeah, we'll come to that. Yes, don't seem negative, of course. Okay, so you can understand happy, sad, sarcasm. And how would you realize that someone is confused? An example? When someone is confused. The confusion is when the author cannot find the exact reason or exact cause of any kind of happening, any kind of event. For example, to be or not to be. To be or not to be. So there can be philosophical passages in which there will be an existential question in which author has got no idea. Author will be discussing different points by different kind of people, different philosophers, but he will be coming to no proper idea whether to be or not to be. Or maybe Schrodinger's cat. You know about that? The cat was there or the cat wasn't there. Not the common admission test. Cat. Isn't it? If there is a passage which talks about something like a movie Interstellar or Inception. If someone talks about, let's say there is a movie review of Inception and in the end they discuss that there is a top, you know, the top which kept rotating. So top actually kept rotating or not? Was it a dream or a real scenario? So these kind of open-ended things will definitely point towards author being confused. Is that clear? Sparsh asked that. Sparsh, is that fine? It's interstellar, Raj, not interstellar. All right. I hope you understand that when there are open-ended questions and nothing can be solved. Well, this is what. So if you actually find language confused and skeptical, no. In confusion, yeah, fine line is there. I'll explain that as well. So, if you remember the flow of this class, I was discussing about what? I was discussing about why tones. What, why, how. We have done what? Let us go to how. Oh, sorry, why. यानी मुझे ड्राइंग करना पसंद था बचपन में, बाद मैंने छोड़ दिया था. Okay. So, let's go to why. Why? What can be the reason of an author? What can be the reason? What can be the reason? See, in a way, everything is basically an anecdote. It's basically a story, isn't it? And that is the reason there have been scientists, there have been political leaders, there have been religious leaders, there have been, warriors, there have been mathematicians, there have been so many different people, artists, but we always require a writer, isn't it? Because writers are the ones who document things. Yes or no? Why writers are important? Okay. So what did I say? Yes, writers. Writers are important because they are the ones who document all the things. Isn't it? So a writer can have different kind of motives, different kind of reasons when writers want to write about something. Isn't it? Right? So they can be, the motive of the author can be to inform people about something. Inform people about something. In the end, we are all just stories, isn't it? So right now what I'm doing? Right now I'm doing what? I'm informing. So let's say this was not an audio-visual class. So what Indrajit sir did on the Facebook post, if you looked at that, there was a whole post on tones. His motive was informing, isn't it? So there can be a passage which talks about, so this, when it is informing, it means the tone is informative, isn't it? Informative can also be a tone. So people can inform you about the stock prices, isn't it? How they behave, how they perform, without giving any kind of emotional explanation. They will just inform you the stock prices. That can be an informative tone. Yes or no? Right? People on YouTube, you also try to comment. Then the other reason can be to explain something. To explain something. There can be authors who want to explain things. So let's say I talk about tardigrades. You know what is tardigrade? I talk about tardigrades, in a passage, and then I explain a situation in which tardigrades were sent to outer space and they did not die. They're not even protected. Any kind of layering was not there, but they did not die. Tardigrades are animals, very small animals, not microscopic, but they are animals which are almost immortal. You cannot crush them, you cannot kill them by throwing fire on them or putting them under the ice. you cannot ionize them. कोई तरीका बस है ही नहीं उनको मारने का. They are possibly immortal, right? So tardigrades were sent somewhere in the outer space, and the passage talks about they were still alive. They were not just alive; they also reproduced. They also reproduced. All right. So here, what the author is trying to do? Author is trying to explain a phenomenon through which tardigrades do not die. So I will not go in detail. It's not a science class, but if you understand this thing, we call it animated suspension. You know that? I'm trying to improve vocabulary as well. Animated suspension. Sorry, suspended animation. उल्टा लिख दिया मैंने. Suspended animation. What does that mean? A lot of animals are there which kind of, go to, there is one thing called hibernation in which animals go to sleep in winters, then aestivation, animals go to sleep during summers. मैं सही बोल रहा हूँ, बायो पढ़ी थी 10th 11th क्लास में, आई थिंक मैं सही बोल रहा हूँ. Aestivation is summer sleep, hibernation is winter sleep. Any bio people over there? Tell me if I'm saying it, if I'm correct. Well, and then there is a thing called suspended animation. Is what happens over there? Irrespective of the climate or any kind of external situations, an animal can go into death-like state. The animal is not dead, but any kind of metabolic activity would be reduced almost to zero. Any metabolic activity. So this kind of passage is basically explaining you something, right? This is explaining you a biological phenomenon. There can be other explanations as well. It can be about, depends on the genre of the passage. Here I discussed about scientific, it was business economics. It can be different kind of genre, but the reason for the author writing the passage can be these two: inform and explain. What else? So when it says explain, basically the tone is mostly descriptive. Yes or no? Here it is informative, here it is descriptive. It can be explanatory as well. The tone can be, there can be more than 200 tones. I can't cover them all. So there are certain tones which do not have a specific technical name, but in the option they can write explanatory. Yes, it was explanatory. Isn't it? Do you get it? Chalo. What else can be there? Author can try to persuade. What is persuade? What is persuade? Making someone do something, making someone believe in something. It is persuasion, persuade. Can you give me an example of persuasion? So let's say I took classes, I think batch 3, where I discussed about the fall of Cleopatra. Do you remember that? I was trying to inform in the first half of the passage, and then trying to persuade you. The second half of passage is persuading you to believe that Cleopatra was one of the best leaders of the world. Isn't it? And also persuading you to believe that even women can be great leaders. Getting it? Yeah. That was persuading. So when we persuade, we do not persuade for things for which people are already ready. मैं बोलूँगा चलो सांस ले लो सारे लोग. तो सांस तो हम ले रहे हैं ना. I should not persuade you for that. Go and have food. No persuasion is required. Persuasion will be required in something which you have no idea about, or maybe if you have an idea about that, but in the widespread notion, people do not do it. People do not believe in it. That is kind of persuasion. Is that clear? Understood, everyone? Cool. Then comes, what else can be there? Reason. Analyze. Analytical tones are the most common ones. Analyze. Try to analyze certain thing. And when we analyze something, we discuss about its pros and cons and the effects of it. What kind of effects will be there? But at the very same time, author would not give his or her opinion. Yes, we have practice also, Adil. Author will not give any kind of opinion while analyzing. He'll just analyze but would not give you any opinion. Normally would not give you any opinion, right? And if an opinion is there, it will be majorly implied. There won't be direct opinions. All right? Always remember that. So that is how author analyze certain things. Then we can have, author can also have a reason of criticizing, isn't it? So, in criticism, what happens? All the things are, I'll give an example. Let's say I give an example of some kind of government, okay? Any government in any nation. What all things government has done? What are the policies that government has made? Are the policies beneficial or not? If they're beneficial, to what extent they are beneficial? Are they coming at the cost of something which is very important, which we are probably not looking at? By now, we're just analyzing. The moment we go to this part, policies, no. Is it beneficial? No. Why is it beneficial? Because the earlier policy statistically is better. All those stuff can be done. And then author will try to, kind of give some kind of opinion, not very bluntly, but some kind of opinion. Okay, so the author is criticizing any kind of policy, any kind of philosophy, any kind of practice. Clear? Is that cool? Understood? That is criticism. Is that clear? Now comes the next thing, that is how. How is author going to do that? First, attitude. Attitude of the author can be found out in first few lines. An author will start it like this. Have you ever thought? जैसे author ने बोल दिया ये, उसका attitude क्या हो गया? क्या attitude हो चुका उसका? Have you ever thought? मतलब the author is probably going to persuade you about something, or maybe criticize about something, or maybe analyze about something. But majorly, it looks like author will be persuading. Have you ever thought? Have you ever looked at the sky? Have you ever looked at this kind of bird? Have you watched crime movies? Have you read a novel? Have you ever gone to a voyage? Getting it? So these kind of, this is, the attitude can be understood. Or, once upon a time, it happened. That can also be starting statement. When this is the statement, it looks like it's going to be a travelogue, memoir, some kind of narrative passage will be there. Okay, so attitude is something which you can get in the first 2 or 3 lines itself. Okay, and that will give you a kind of reasoning that you can identify tone. Okay, then flow of ideas in the passage. Flow of ideas. How ideas are coming one after the other. So basically, in a passage, we have paragraphs. Para 1, para 2, para 3. Majorly, at least there will be 3 paras. Introduction, body, conclusion. The simplest kind of essay, right? And we can also have para 1 to para 5, in which para 1 is introduction, para 5 is conclusion. Para 2 might talk about the prose, para 3 about the examples, para 4 about the what kind of steps should be taken to avoid something. So these are the normal kind of passages. This is how the author goes like. And when we have like more than 3 paragraphs, 5 paragraphs, normally it happens, majorly it happens that the author will try to convince you about something, or he or she will try to analyze something, because it will, if the 3 body paragraphs, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4, there are 3 body paragraphs. The body paragraph, what is there? It won't be just explaining, it would be examples, it would be pros and cons, and what steps should be taken to avoid something or to support something. Okay, so flow of ideas can also give you an idea about what kind of tone would be there. Yes, Harsh, broader to narrow, or narrow to vice versa, narrow to broader. Cool. Now, now comes the tone. Now comes the tone. So by now, I think you have understood the things which I'm trying to tell you, right? So far, so good? Now comes the real part of it, that is tones. Beautiful slide, Aditi, yes. Okay. Tones based on emotions. Yes, Harsh, we'll be doing questions also. Tones based on emotions. Tones can be based on two different things. First is emotions. Okay. Well, we can have, I'll just change the color of the ink. We can have an emotion which belongs to the cluster of this emoji. All right, an emotion that belongs to cluster of this emoji. What is it? वंश मैंने जानबूझ के ट्रांसलेट बॉक्स नहीं डाला था वहाँ पे because I wanted you to focus on it. I did consciously. All right, Rizwan says why eons are 25-30 paragraphs long, because eon is basically kind of essay. It is not an unseen passage. उन्होंने इसलिए नहीं बनाया कि आप उससे कैट का एग्जाम सॉल्व करोगे, कैट वाले वहाँ से उठाते हैं. So eon will be discussing about everything, each and everything, right? Well, the cluster of tones which are towards the happy side. When I say happy side, what all things can be there? Happy can be there, of course. There can be joy. Tone can be joyous, right? The tone can be exhilarating, right? Exhilarating, happy, joyous, exhilarating. Tone can be kind of, it can also be, what do you say? Praising someone, right? So all these tones come under the cluster which is happy. All right. टना टना टना, वाह, हाँ, ये भी काजल ने एक तरीका है, टन टना टन. Okay, laudatory. Praising is laudatory, of course, when you applaud someone, sort of. Excitement. So all these tones will come under the cluster which looks like this. There can be a lot of other tones also. All right. There can be humorous as well in this. So any kind of emotion that gives you that, rush of endorphins, that will come under this cluster. Is that cool? Laudatory is praising. When you applaud someone. Is that clear? Everyone? ठीक है. The next cluster can be this. है ना? What is that? This cluster will be sad, right? It can be, in some cases, it can be nostalgic also. Nostalgic can be happy as well, but nostalgic, like, you understand it, nostalgic. When you think about something and you kind of miss it. So you cannot be just sad because, that something bad has happened. You can also be sad because you missed something. Isn't it? Getting it? Then there is a thing called, and I want to know who understands it, melancholic. This is the kind of, the exact word which will give an idea about this emoji. Yes, apathetic. Tone can be apathetic. When people are not able to feel anything, that can also be tone, right? There can be some kind of gloomy tone. Yeah, gloomy, anxious, etc. Tell me what is melancholic. Who will tell me? Melancholic. Rana says pensive. Very good, yes. Pensive. What is pensive? Who will tell me that? Anyone from YouTube? Yes, when you feel sad without any reason, that is melancholic mood. And you know what? Melancholy stems from, melancholy is very, philosophic kind of thing. Basically, people when they become melancholic, they kind of talk about philosophical thoughts. It can be existential crisis as well. And you know what? I'll tell you something. In the Shakespeare's plays, if anyone is from ICSE board, you must have looked at there is always a person who is a comedian, a comic, isn't it? And all the comedians of Shakespeare were melancholic. That's the thing. So Shakespeare somehow tried to, generate humor, comedy through melancholy. Someone on YouTube says melancholic cluster of studies on mock scores. Yes, Raina, isn't it? The people who had this ICSE board maybe have read Shakespeare. They must have realized Touchstone was a very famous character. Touchstone, उसका नाम Touchstone था. So from melancholy, he derived humor. Okay, another cluster. ये मैंने सही बनाया है. What do you feel from it? Touchstone from As You Like It, smart, exactly. दीप सेज मैं मेलैंकॉलिक हूँ, पता नहीं क्यों लोग अल्कोहलिक बोलते हैं मेरे को. तो मेलैंकली में अल्कोहल पी लेते होगे ना, इसलिए. मर्चेंट ऑफ वेनिस, रशिद, यस, वेरी गुड. Angry, yes. That's angry. सबको एंग्री लग रहा है ना? Angry, aggressive. So when can people be angry? What all things will be there in the cluster? In this cluster, we can have anger, dissatisfaction. Author might, tend to be critical also, in some cases, not all. Aggressive. And you know what? Sometimes the anger also has two kind of angers are there. One anger is called as righteous anger. Righteous anger. For example, the anger which freedom fighters felt during British rule in India. Getting it? Hatred, infuriated, exactly. Annoyed. It can be confrontational, when you want to confront someone or something. Confrontational. Keep on writing these things. These are tones basically. Okay? Then they can be vitriolic. What is vitriolic? Who will tell me? Vitriolic. If you remember, there are vitriols in chemistry. Isn't it? Vitriolic will be used for very, very high state of anger. No, anger to its extreme. When you say lot of anger is there, lot of anger, which can even, tantamount to violence. Fuming with rage, yes. Vitriolic tones In some cases, they also call it caustic. Again, comes from chemistry. Caustic soda, which is, kind of effervescent. There's one more tone, vituperative. Note all of these things. So whenever you have an example, these are the words which will give you a feeling. Whenever there's a feeling of angry, then any of these words can be a part of the answer. Okay, in vituperative there can also be abuse. जो गाली गलौज tone है, Mirzapur has vituperative tone. Mirzapur, if it's a story, of course it's a story, right? It's a piece of art. It has got vituperative tone. Very harsh, very bitter. We also call acerbic. All these tones will come under this cluster. So many tones are there. All right. Is that clear, everyone? No, Janvi, sarcastic वहाँ पे नहीं आएगा. Someone asked me what is dogmatic. Dogmatic is something which is रूढ़िवादी. रूढ़िवादी in Hindi we call it रूढ़िवादी. So rigid with some kind of rules. Dogma. What is dogma? Dogma is a principle. Dogmatic, one who believes in principles. Principles cannot always be right. It can be hard, rigid rules of society as well. That is dogmatic. All right. Dogmatic can have both the interpretations. Cool. And I hope that you are making these things, kind of noting these things down. Then comes the next one, जो बड़ा मज़ेदार है, जो बहुत लोग आजकल कर 21st century people, this technology virtual age people, they are pro in this. Tell me what kind of emotion are you getting from this? क्रिटिकल का शुभम मैंने एग्जांपल दिया था. एसर्बिक में बहुत हार्श हो. क्रिटिकल इतना हार्श नहीं था. क्रिटिकल इज बेसिकली, क्रिटिकल लुक्स लाइक एनालिटिकल एनालिसिस in which author has his opinions. Naughty, sarcastic, troll, evil, exactly. Is the smiley good? Manipulative, sarcasm. ठीक है, मतलब मैंने सही ड्राइंग की है. So this is the cluster of tones which come under sarcasm. Okay? Sarcasm. Tone can be sarcastic. Okay? Tone can be manipulative. Tone can be satirical. Tone can be demeaning. All right. So all sorts of words. मैं ये smiley क्यों दे रहा हूँ ताकि तुम कोई भूलो मत. That is the best way of making people note down things, or maybe putting these things in their mind, in the deep memory. Had I done it like normal classes, you would have taken the class and forgotten and went away. 3 दिन बोलते, 3 दिन बाद फिर से बोलते टोन क्या होता है. But now, you have this proper mental maps, isn't it? ठीक है? You'll never forget this now. These are the clusters. Okay? Can we have more such condescending? I think demeaning, condescending, yeah. Almost same thing. What else can be there? Sardonic. Yes, sardonic. What is sardonic? When you feel that you are better than others. That is sardonic tone. All right. The tone can be mocking as well, when you mock people. So all these things, when you feel this smiley while reading a passage, then anything from this can be the correct answer. They won't ask you the answer directly, right? This is going to help you in answering other questions. Is that cool? Cynical, yes, cynical can also be there. In cynical, थोड़ा सा ना इसमें कमी आएगा. Cynical also arises from not just emotions but a logic also. So cynical, I would say, cynical to a bit, not majorly. Cynical is a total other philosophy. All right. Taunting, patronizing, yes. Taunting, yes, taunting. Don't give me taunting. You taunt someone. You're provocative. You provoke someone by saying this. Now, provocative can also be in the second cluster. Okay, provocative can be in both the cluster. Ridiculous, exactly, all those tones. Now, the next one. What is this? Cheesy, avara. Mughal, I give you examples also, don't worry. Doubtful लग रहा है. Confused, मतलब मैंने अच्छे से बनाया नहीं है. अरे मतलब you know, वो kiss कर रहा है यार. This is the lips while kissing, you know. This is, you know, this is extreme happiness. Extreme happiness. मतलब मजा ही आ गया. The tones, that is laudatory. So laudatory was in first cluster also, but laudatory would be going to this cluster. Okay. Passionate, a lot of passion is there. Passionate tone. You know, when author talks about something or certain fact or some kind of idea with such conviction that it looks like this, that is the world for him or her. अच्छा हाँ मुझे अभी याद आया इसमें एक ऐसे करते हैं ना आई थिंक now it looks that like what I am intending to portray अभी ठीक है okay now I think it looks good. Yes, Siddhika, exactly. Ecstatic. Ecstasy, है ना? Ecstatic comes from ecstasy. When you feel like, oh, this is, you know, the world, nothing can be better than this. All right. चलो ठीक है. So I hope you understand. Viram says scintillating. Yes. Basically, when you become ecstatic and highly passionate about something, that is the kind of blissful situation. What do we call it? You know, when you say blissful, it's totally blissful, full of bliss. When you feel some kind of devotion, you know, this kind of devotion also. The tone is full of devotion. When Mirabai talks about Lord Krishna, right? It can be euphoric. It can be euphoric also. Comes from euphoria. एक और बताऊं मैं word. ये tone नहीं है, but this will give you enough idea. Munificence. Munificence is the kind of extreme happiness when someone gets when he is totally lost in something so much that he is into munificence. Okay, so all these tones. Chalo, good. A lot of you have realized it. Now coming to the last kind of cluster, which is this. Anything which looks neutral will come under this. And this is the last tone based on emotions, neutral. I took neutral because the moment I cross this barrier, so let's say there is a barrier of, two things. So there is a barrier. Emotions, logic. This is the barrier. So all these guys, all the smileys that I just made, all these lie in this, here they lie, they are enjoying in the emotions. These are tones on emotions. The moment you cross this barrier, you will go to tones which are logical in nature. Okay, and on this barrier sits this neutrality. Isko cross karte hi. The moment you cross neutrality, you will go to logic. Is that clear, everyone? Yes, Mohit, Daphne is a girl. Her name is Aratrika. All right, all of you get it? People on YouTube? Understanding what I just said? But by the way, before jumping on to that logical perspective, let us understand this cluster. The tone is neutral. Okay? Neutral. When you do not talk about any kind of emotion, any kind of reasoning, when you become blank totally, blank, totally blank. And neutrality can also come from an overdoses of emotion that is called overwhelming. When you become overwhelmed, you might become neutral. So if in a passage, it starts with overwhelming emotions, and in the end, the author is like trying to gather all the pieces of their mind, of their thoughts, and then they go to neutrality. So from overwhelming comes neutrality, from neutrality comes logic. So neutral is something which we don't need to discuss much. Okay? Right? So now we'll directly go to the tones which are logical in nature. Tones based on reason. Tones based on reason. Let's start that. When tones are based on reason, there are two basic reasons, which author is trying to do. One is, when we call it, the tone is expository. It's a cluster of tones. Expository. What is expository? And the other is when author wants to evaluate something. The tone is evaluative. Note this down. This is going to be very, 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 very helpful. But this is something a lot of people do not know about. Emotion सबको पता है, but ये कई लोगों को नहीं पता होता. What is expository? Prakul says expose करना. नहीं. On YouTube, who will tell me? What is expository? Kajal, yes. Neutrality में impartial is also this thing, yes. What is expository? Expository is something, okay, those who do not know, when you want to explain something. When you say tone is explanatory, okay, to explain something. When you want to describe something, you must have heard these descriptive tones, yes or no? Descriptive, yes. Yeah, Mohit. Okay. When you want to inform someone about something. So if you remember, when I took that part and we were discussing why a passage is written, in those why, whatever questions were asked, purpose was information, explanation, persuasion, analyze, criticize, all that stuff goes to this explanation, description, and information goes to expository. All right. Is it understood? To narrate something. Tone is narrative. By the way, you know how do we identify something narrative or not? Whenever the passage is in first person, I, we, so that's the narrative tone. It's kind of storytelling. Getting it? All of you? Then comes evaluative. So in evaluative, as I discussed, the moment from the emotions you go to neutrality, that lies between the boundary of emotion and reason. So neutral is the first tone in evaluative tones. All right? Neutral. In neutral, people can basically analyze things. Analysis. It can be technical. It can be factual. Note these three things down. Note these things down. जैसे number system का मैंने पेड़ बनाया था, tree. The same tree is for tones. Clear? So when you evaluate certain things, yes or no, you'll either evaluate or you won't evaluate. So whenever you don't do these stuff, how do you know it? In that case, the tone is argumentative. When you put arguments to evaluate certain things, to evaluate or not to evaluate, then that tone is majorly argumentative. Okay, in argumentation, the other things, the other subtones, the cluster will compose of tones like when tone is judgmental. The tone can be opinionated. All right, but majorly it is argumentative. This is very important. I hope all of you did that. Okay. Now I will go to these tones like analytical, technical, factual, argumentative, one by one, and then tell you, I'll give you complete list of it. Let's go there. Detailed list. Okay, clear? We're coming to the last part of the class now, session now. Okay. So I'll have three different lists. First is expository. In expository, this entire cluster will consist of the following things. First is factual, detailed, informative. Note these things down. Explanatory. So inside this expository cluster, these four will form a subcluster. Subcluster 1. Note this down. Subcluster 1. And now I'm sure that you won't be confused much. You'll have to just go through this thing, probably twice, and you will be done with it. Then comes objective. When tone is objective. In this, whatever is mentioned is majorly, for example, something is technical. It is objective. So all of us know that sun rises in the east. That's an objective tone. Something that is true for everyone. There will be no opinions. People cannot, judge it to be right or wrong. That is objective. We say objective reality. What is the objective reality of us humans? That we have 5 sense organs. Getting it? That's the objective reality. And the opposite of it is subjective reality, which people might say that we have 6th sense as well. People say girls have better 6th sense. Girls know it better when someone touches them, the touch is good or bad. The 6th sense, right? I'm just giving an example. Getting it? So objective reality is something which is true for everyone, universally. Of course, अब पता है Venus पे sun rises in the west because Venus का revolution उल्टा होता है. But on our planet, it's objective reality. In a way, nothing is objective reality. Objective reality is all about, it is objective because all the humans share same kind of sense organs. That is the reason. Okay, so you're getting it, isn't it? I won't go into philosophy much. I'm just telling you the tones. If I go to philosophy, then nothing will be universal truth. All right, everything is relative. But you get it now. Yes, Somadev. Okay. Technical, unbiased, balanced. So when I told you expository is one cluster, we have this subcluster, we have this subcluster as well. Are you noting these things down? And there's one more cluster that is in this only, in expository only, that will be descriptive and clarifying. Something which clears out something. So we have three subclusters in the main cluster expository. Noted? Cool. Second cluster is when tones are analytical. So first is when some when some problem is solved. When problem is solved, there can be an argument, a problem which is solved. If you remember that passage of about I did it. Turing machine. You remember that? The passage which I did in probably batch 3 and batch 2 as well. Turing machine को लेके आए थे, किस तरह से decode किया था, problem was getting solved, that tone, in that there is problem solving is there. So when problem solving is there, that tone would be majorly analytical. Getting it? Critical is a sub part of analytical. This will be coming under one subcluster. So when I was discussing analytical, things are analyzed without giving up an opinion, and whenever there is an opinion given to it in analysis, it will majorly tend towards critical tones. Getting it, everyone? Tell me in the comments. In analytical, we also have tones which are logical. How are they logical? When a lot of logic and reasoning is involved to come to a conclusion. In logical tones, always remember there has to be a conclusion in the end. There has to be a conclusion in the end. If a passage is open-ended, it won't be logical passage. Getting it? Which also gives you a tone that is methodical. A method is being followed, or I can say systematic. Whenever you have this things like system is getting in place, there are methods involved, so that tone will be majorly logical. Will come under the heading analytical. Rizwan ने तरीका बता दिया क्या है. When there is something in which opinion is given, it will be critical. This will be the second subcluster for analytical tones. Noting it down. The last one is introspective and inquisitive. This will come under one subcluster. All right. Introspect. When people think about their own memories, their own experiences, and then come to the conclusion, that is introspective. Inquisitive, when you want to understand, know something. When you're kind of inquisitive, you want to know about it. You're curious. Is that clear? Getting it, everyone? Got it? Okay. Coming to the third cluster, that will be argumentative. Note it down. Should I erase it? Now coming to argumentative. How many clusters do we have here? So when something is persuasive, you persuade someone, we discussed that. Assertive, assertive tone is very important tone. Assertive. Assertive is when someone says something that, whether it is true or not, but the way it is said, you have to believe in it. It's assertive, you know. So someone says it out to your face. Not majorly negative. It can be a good thing also. When something is asserted, कि मैंने बोला है ये सही है, इसमें कुछ गलत नहीं होगा, है ना? मतलब basically it's not a negative tone. These are all neutral tones, okay? Is that clear? When people say he asserted, okay? There's also a tone which comes under this, is called cogent. What is cogent? When you say something out loud with confidence, you know, and that would try to influence people. So as you see here, this will be the first subcluster under argumentative, persuasive, assertive, or cogent. Clear? Then we have defiant tone and confrontational tone. These all will come under argumentative, all right? The subcluster of argumentative. And the third subcluster of argumentative will be propagandist. Janvi, cogent, something is said out loud in a very highly confident manner. So, propagandist, controversial. You know, when there are multiple meanings to certain things, it might create controversy. When you have that kind of feeling, the tone is controversial. And provocative. All right, so this is sum total of all things that I have done today. It is tones based on emotions, tones based on reasoning, and different clusters and different subclusters as well. Question, I think I told you, right? Ironically is not a tone, Abhiram. Ironic is a figure of speech. It's a literary device. Okay, so Cat doesn't ask a literary device question, but Zat does. So I'll take a session on literary devices as well. Or we can say a figure of speech. If you want that, probably in 1 hour session, I might plan it in this also, if you want it. It's not that much required, but if you want to know about different kind of figure of speech, irony, metaphor, etc., you know, paradox, then I can take a session. Do you want to do you want me to take that? Mukul, propagandist tone is something in which one kind of policy or philosophy is being tried to, you know, what? When you try to, you know, spread one simple, one particular kind of philosophy or policy, that will be a propagandic tone. Propagandist tone. All right. Yeah. Defiant tone, yeah. Defiant tone is something when you deny something. When you will say, मैं ये नहीं करूँगा. वो भी कैसे? Proper assertion, गुस्से के साथ. I won't do this. This is defiant. Defiance. All right. So now let's go to the, quickly, let's go to the examples. Passage 1. All of you. Chalo. There are 10 passages. We'll take 2 to 3 minutes each. Tell me the answer. Be quick. प्रोपेगेंडा फैलाना मुकुल, जहाँ पे बोलते हैं ना कि जैसे मान लो किसी का कोई अल्टीरियर मोटिव है कि मैं चाहता हूँ, ऐसा मान लो कि मतलब सारे लोग ना इस धरती के सब लोग एक ही भगवान में मानना शुरू कर दें, या एक ही टाइप ऑफ फेथ उनका शुरू हो जाए, या वो एक ही तरह की गवर्नमेंट में माने, एक ही तरह की फिलॉसफी माने, ये मान लें कि भाई सती करना ज़रूरी है ना, लड़कियों को काम बाहर जाके नहीं करना चाहिए, है ना, लड़कों को अय्याशी करनी चाहिए. सो इफ़ आई वांट टू प्रूव all of it by giving different examples by different narrations, it will be a kind of propaganda. Is that clear now? Now I think it's clear. Let's see this. Responding to fears of imminent Soviet nuclear attack. In 1951, President Harry Truman set up a national system enabling the president to quickly notify the public of an impending national security threat via cross-country relay chain of AM radio stations. So there was a fear, of imminent attack. And who acted on that? Is that the author? No. That was a person, Harry Truman, the president. It used characteristic blaring warning tones and became precursor of the emergency alert system still in use today. What does this line talk about? It talks about the kind of technology that was being used. There are certain stations across every market that listen for those tones and then transmit the other alert. ये बता रहा है कौन? जॉन लॉसन बता रहे हैं कि ऐसा, ठीक है, that's just a kind of a statement that is being mentioned over here. An emergency alert expert who has advised the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, on its modern warning systems. A 2006 bill passed under President George W. Bush augmented that capability with wireless text message alerts that could theoretically be sent to every cell phone. यहाँ भी बता रहे हैं कि भाई जो दूसरा जो यहाँ पे the bill was passed in 2006 by George W. Bush. What was the bill all about? What did it do? The technology that was being used. But surprisingly, this new system has never ever been tested. So President Donald Trump plans to send an inaugural test alert on October 3. It had initially been slated for September 20. The FEMA says the plan was delayed by the need to focus on Hurricane Florence. Okay. Do you guys want me to explain each and every line? I don't think so. Because here the question is, I'm not going to explain everything because it's not a complete set. It's basically an example for tone. All right. So as you can see here, criticism is done. Not really, because the author has not given his own opinion. Narration has been done. Author ने कभी अपना जिक्र किया, I, we use किया. First person, no, there's no narration. Is author being emotional? Not really. So there are two things, factual or alarmist. See, there is an alarming situation, of course, but that situation is with the character of this story. Not alarming is not the passage is not the alarm, not alarming. It's situation that is alarming inside the passage, and situation has been factually represented. So we'll go with factual, not with alarmist. A lot of you have gone with 3, but the answer is 1. Factual, fact-based, facts, presenting facts. Rizwan, alarming मतलब कुछ खतरा आने वाला है. Get alarmed. Coming to passage 2. Imagine biting into a juicy beef burger that was produced without killing animals. Meat grown in a laboratory from cultured cells is turning that vision into reality. Several startups are developing lab-grown beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. Among them, Moza Meat, Memphis Meat, Super Meat, and Finless Foods. And the field is attracting millions in funding. In 2017, for instance, Memphis Meats took in $17 million from sources that included Bill Gates and agricultural company Cargill. Not that Cargill. If widely adopted, lab-grown meat, also called clean meat, could eliminate much of the cruel, unethical treatment of animals. Veganism, किसी vegan ने लिखा है लग रहा है ना? Isn't it? What do you think? It could also reduce the considerable environmental costs of meat production. Resources would be needed only to generate and sustain cultured cells, not an entire organism from birth. The meat is made by first taking a muscle sample from an animal. Technicians collect stem cells from the tissue, multiply them dramatically, and allow them to differentiate into primitive fibers that then bulk up to form muscle tissue. Moza Meat says that one tissue sample from a cow can yield enough muscle tissue to make 80,000 quarter pounders. Wow. What is happening over here? Critical? नहीं, criticize किया ही नहीं है. Theoretical? The theory has been mentioned? Not really. अपलॉडिंग, क्या इसकी तारीफ की जा रही है? नहीं, बताया जा रहा है. Appreciative नहीं किया गया, applauding appreciative नहीं है. Informative, he is basically informing about something which is going to happen. All of you got it right. Next. Even as New Delhi copes with the rupee nosediving vis-a-vis the US dollar, neighboring Pakistan's economy is in a far more parlous state. As in India, the villain of the piece in Pakistan is the appropriately named CAD, CAD, which is distinctly more caddish there than here. With Islamabad scraping the bottom of near-empty coffers to keep the country afloat, Pakistan's newly anointed Prime Minister, former cricketer Sir Imran Khan, is pulling out all stops to revive his country's moribund, you know what moribund? बर्बाद हो चुकी है जो economy, sending out a clarion call for belt-tightening austerity. Team Imran has ramped up the import duty of some 5,000 luxury items, luxury in quotes. मुझे लग रहा है बंदा ना ये पता क्या कर रहा है यहाँ पे. The author is doing this. Don't you think so? मजे ले रहे हैं ना इमरान खान के? Isn't it? The author is trying to mock. It's definitely sarcastic. No need to पढ़ना आगे. थोड़ा और अगर बीच में तो लाइन छोड़ के पढ़ भी लूँ मैं. Nor is it known who the potential buyers may be, unless it is Pakistan's version of our own Gaurakshaks. However, by grabbing the bull by the horns, Imran is sending out to his cash-strapped country a morale-boosting variation on a former US president's slogan, "Yes, we Khan." So it's totally sarcastic. There's no doubt about it. ठीक है? Next. If in some cataclysm all of scientific knowledge were to be destroyed and only one sentence passed on the next generations of creatures, what statement would contain the most information in the fewest words? I believe it is the atomic hypothesis or the atomic fact or whatever you wish to call it, that all things are made of atoms, little particles that move around in perpetual motion, attracting each other when they are little distance apart, but repelling upon being squeezed into one another. In that one sentence, you will see there is an enormous amount of information about the world if just a little imagination and thinking are applied. More than one answer correct here. Hypothetical, insightful, factual, objective, subjective. Objective तो ये है नहीं, क्योंकि ये ऑथर खुद बोल रहा है, किसी और ने तो बोला नहीं. ऑथर कौन है पता भी नहीं है. Subjective है, for sure. Is it factual? Any fact is being given over here? Not really. It is insightful. It is insightful because it talks about, what will happen if there's a cataclysm and, all the distances, the atoms are in perpetual motion, attracting when distance apart, and there's a lot of information will be there. So there is insight over there. It is insightful. Is it hypothetical? Any hypothesis being talked about? No. Here, author has mentioned, I believe it is the atomic hypothesis. So there's a hypothesis already there. Author is not trying to give you any hypothesis. This is why one will not be true. It will be 2 and 5 only. It won't be 1. People have mentioned 1, but 1 is wrong because 1 is something. 1 is something. The hypothesis is already in place. It's not the hypothesis of the author. That is why we won't go with hypothetical tone. Is that clear? A lot of you must have read this word hypothesis. ऐसा नहीं है, ये hypothesis पहले से ही थी. The simple word can change the tone exactly, Kajal. So people have to be very, careful. Okay. The erstwhile Planning Commission had been on the decline since 1991, much before the final blow was delivered to it by the present regime in 2014. At some point, इसने बोल दिया है, the erstwhile Planning Commission had been on decline. Final blow, critical नहीं, थोड़ा सा हो रहा बंदा ही. तो आगे देखते हैं. At some point, the charge of the Planning Commission was entrusted to eminent experts, many of whom had trained in neoliberal schools. This did not fit well with the imperative for an inclusive and equitable patch of economic development in India, which is socially hierarchical and economical iniquitous society. No. Zainab, something will be hypothetical in the case when it has, the um, the argument in consideration has got a huge extent, right? So author, it doesn't mean it. He is not, he's meaning it. If that happens, then what will happen? What if it's just a way to start this? It's just a phrase here. It doesn't present a hypothesis. Okay, it's just a phrase that if this will happen, this can be done. All right. Hypothetical पता क्या होगा? Hypothetical, okay, I'll give you example. Hypothetical is something when, let's say, they talk about a world जहाँ what if लिखने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. Have you watched that movie Interstellar? All of you have watched it, no? In Interstellar, what has happened? Interstellar shows you the story which is already Earth has destroyed, and they have made it look like that it is the reality without talking much about it. It doesn't say what if this has happened. No, it has happened already. So if I give you a situation in which I talk about that there was a world, there's a world in which there is only one gender, that is women. No men are there. I won't start with what if. I'll just say it out loud and start giving a story about that world. That will be a hypothetical situation. Is that clear? It's a good question. A lot of you had asked, but now I think you understand it. Yes or no? Got it? Zainab and Lakshay? When I say, what if all men died? तो ये hypothetical situation नहीं हुआ. Okay, so what if is basically just a phrase, and that phrase, and by the way, it is kind of a learning also. That phrase would not necessarily create a hypothesis. Got it? Okay. Here it is sharply critical. That is there. It's sharply critical, isn't it? And it's disparaging also. Very lowly opinion of things are there. So that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this session, and this session has helped you, in a way that will probably help you in understanding or sees better. There won't be question on tones mostly. अगर आ गया क्या पता, एक सवाल कभी आया नहीं 10 साल से. But even if it comes there, it will be easy for you. That's what I believe, tones. But even if it doesn't come, tones can actually, here I have given you a lot of different interpretations to try to understand a passage clearly. So now it will help you in certain way to understand the passage, to comprehend it in a better way, isn't it? So tell me in the comments whether you have it is going to help you. If it is going to help you, I'll also plan, probably I'll plan something which will be on literary devices and figures of speech. Yeah, Harsh, but in that case it is possible. The story is totally hypothetical, then it's hypothetical. All right. Rana, you are asking about disparaging. Disparaging is something which is, which should be condemned totally. Okay, Rana? Bye-bye. You have a session at 7. Tomorrow, there's time and work. I'll take that. So, let's meet you tomorrow. Shaila, I don't know you. Rest of the people I know, I think. Yes. Bye-bye, everyone. Take care. We're on YouTube and Facebook both.